Hello, it's your neighborhood sociopath, and today is a little bit different than some of the other videos, and that's for one reason only. My friend had a school project, and for his project, for psychology, he had to interview someone around an idea of psychology. So he asked the teacher if he could interview someone with a mental health disease, or, well, I guess a psychological condition, and that would be me. I was the person he chose. Conveniently enough, I was diagnosed with ASPD, so he was like, hey, can I interview you? I was like, hey, can I make a video about it? We were like, hey, sure. And that's how it ended up being today. Now, he doesn't have much interview experience. It was more of a practice run for him. So this does end up being more of a questionnaire than it does an interview, but that's okay because he did good. I answered some questions honestly, and some of the questions did stump me. They threw me for a loop, and I wasn't ready for them, so my explanations took a second. But I really did try to be as honest as possible. So without further ado, enjoy. Also, don't forget to subscribe. At 200 subscribers, we're opening up a Discord. Okay, have fun.
Yeah, let me pull up my questions here.
Didn't even have them ready. That's insane.
I got 10 questions here, so
You okay? All right. Detailed answers, I suppose.
yeah.
You gonna ask the question?
Oh, okay. All right, first question. Can you describe a time when you had to deal with a difficult situation? How did you handle it?
Man, that's a really generic question. All right, so typically they all end up with figure out the problem, and then it all ends up being either A, eliminate the problem, or B, fix the problem. Like, for a scenario, I guess it would be like getting a job. My last job was pretty hard to get. My last big
Mhm.
job. Like the problem for me was I lacked the experience, but I had the knowledge because I'd been doing it part time for a long time. I just couldn't put it anywhere on my resume, so I was like, hey, here's what I'll do. I'll lie. So I lied and had a buddy of mine who I'd worked with in the part timing as a reference, and he put together a script for me. And so we ended up with the script and everything. We faked my experience, and my experience ended up getting me a job.
Hmm.
So I fixed the problem on that one. But typically, I like the eliminate the problem thing because then that problem doesn't come back.
Okay. Second question. How would you describe your relationship with others?
That's rocky. I mean, think of it like this: how's your relationship with a brick wall? It's there, it exists, but you only know it's there when you need it. Like if a hurricane comes through, or if you're angry and you want to touch something extremely something. You just you know they're there. At least this is for me. You know they're there. You know you can talk to them, and you know you can use them as a resource. But for me, it's like my relationships always end up to be one-sided because if I need something, I'll do it, and if they need something and it's too much effort for me, I don't want to do it. And it's not to say that I'm lazy. I just don't feel like if it's not a fair trade, it's not it's not the way you should do things. It should be completely transactional. It should never be just, oh, I'll do you a favor.
Hmm. Okay. What motivates you in life?
Ooh, retiring at the age of 30. I say that because everyone's like, oh, well, you should live while you're young. Bull freaking crap. You should work very hard when you're young and then work very hard to not have to work by the time you're like 30 because you're still young. And then when you hit middle age, you have freedom, money, and everything you need to do whatever, wherever, and whenever you want. Freedom is really important. So, like, at the end of the day, I just want freedom. Like, I don't want to have to be like, oh, I gotta go to work because my boss asked me to. I want to be like, hey, I worked really hard and I don't have to do that anymore. I get to do whatever I want. That kind of thing.
Hmm. Do you feel remorse or guilt when something you do negatively impacts others?
Not particularly. So, like, well, I say particularly, not at all. It just depends, right? Everything's a stepping stone. Think about it. And okay, this one's gonna be more detailed. When you think about it like this, we're gonna think about it with the death penalty. It's widely frowned upon nowadays, but I want to point out, not too long ago, like within a couple hundred years, we were hanging people in the streets, right?
Hmm.
and nobody felt remorse for them. They were criminals. I mean, you did what you had to do. It was a stepping stone, made the community better. I kind of feel the same way. You walk on or talk to or use what you have to, and then you discard or you keep around depending on how you burn the bridge. It all just depends on your remorse is based on your social norms. And being the fact that I don't abide by those or I don't feel like I fit into those, I wouldn't feel remorse anyways. Plus, that area of my brain is like, so, that's the thing.
Uh, how do you typically react when someone disagrees with you or challenges you?
If they make a fair point, they make a fair point. I mean, if if you if I'm trying to argue that 2 plus 2 is 5, why am I going to why I don't have an argument? And they're gonna argue 2 plus 2 is 4. They have all the facts. They have everything in front of me. I'm gonna agree with them. I'm not gonna argue with them when I have no evidence. Now, if I have evidence and you are making a baseless claim, I will argue until I am blue in the face and I know I'm right. And it's not like a pride thing. It's like a why are you siding with something that has no evidence and nothing to back you up? You have to, when you speak or when you talk or when you're preparing an argument with someone or even just a regular old conversation, you need to have the ability to back up all of your claims. I don't mind if you argue, I don't mind if you disagree, but just provide me something that makes me think, hey, maybe they're right, or makes me think that my point is questionable and I have to then further research something.
Okay. What do you think of rules or laws?
I think they're a good thing to have. They keep a lot of people in order, but they also establish a pecking order because then you have the law or the police who we don't do a very good job of weeding out the bad. There's a lot of bad, which means that the law is kind of up for debate in their eyes, which is not, by the way. The law is the law. It's how it is. There's no working around it. It is how it is. But we don't uphold that because of the people we have. I mean, there's ways to get around it or ways to loop it. If they were laws written in stone, had to be followed, and that's how they were, I'd support them 1000% because then those are the rules you follow so you don't get in trouble. But since they're so wavering, I don't agree with them.
Okay. How do you see yourself compared to others?
Mm, it depends. I had a comment not too long ago explain to me that like it's based on achievements, and I disagree completely. I personally think I am more intelligent than other people, and I can use my words very well compared to other people, so I have the advantage. Most conversations or most things I talk about or most interactions I have is immediately based off of can I take advantage of it? Can this work in my favor? And is it worth my time? If those three categories fit, then I'm like, boom, done, ready to go. If they don't, then I'm kind of like, I don't really want to do it.
Tell me about a time when you had to make a difficult decision that affected other people. How did you approach it?
I was a manager at a restaurant, and it was either one person or another because we were cutting budgets, and obviously you choose the worst performance one. But what made it more difficult in their eyes was I was, I guess, quote unquote friends with them. I didn't feel like that, but they were closer to me than another employee, which did not bother me because at the end of the day, business is business. Learn to separate it, and then you won't have problems. But here's the thing with other people, they don't know how to do that. So when I cut this person, they're like, "Hey, I thought we were friends or whatever." I lost the friendship, quote unquote, because I had to cut them. I mean, business is business at the end of the day. If that happens, you have to understand that you're obviously doing something for yourself. You're not going out of your way to be like, "Hey, I'm just going to hurt you." No, I'm doing something to benefit me at the cost of you. I hope that makes sense.
Yeah. Do you think emotions are useful or necessary in decision making?
No, not at all. Actually, uh, they are horrible, so god awful. Cause like, I mean, we would do well to get rid of a lot of people. Like fear is a big one. Fear is your biological, like, safety net. I am afraid of going into that cave that's dark and looks like it's about to collapse, so I'm not going to. Versus someone who's not going to, feels like I'm going to go in there. See, but examples like that aren't great. But like, and government talk here, Kim Jong Un, North Korea, man. Why would, if everybody in that country banded together to overthrow him and make a better place, 100% would be great. I mean, he does a lot of bad things, like sending spies to Japan with no reason and then claiming different things. If you guys don't know, you should look that up. He does a lot of bad things and has no justification for it. But that's because he just establishes fear in everyone because he is willing to do whatever it takes. Fear is a biological safety net, but it is an example as to what could go wrong if you use your emotions for judgment. Emotions are useless at the end of the day. Happiness, useless. It should be about productivity, and the world would be a much better place. In fact, in a higher power or higher order thinking kind of thing, efficiency is important, and we do the same thing with machines. We use them efficiently because they have no emotions. If you treat humans like machines, oddly enough, your work goes up, and if you keep your morale up, then you're using emotions. So that's the issue. Like, if you didn't have to worry about morale and used humans as machines, you would have like an A1 workplace, A1 profits, A1 marketing, A1 everything. So emotions they should just be thrown out the window. We just, whatever, however we got them, we just shouldn't have them.
How would you define success?
It's based on a personal goal. Like, success is, you can't be like, oh, I'm a millionaire, but like you also never had children, never have anything to do, and now you're sitting alone at home, like watching porn. That's not successful, in my opinion. But you got the money that you wanted, right? See, that's success is your personal goal. Me personally, I think being a functioning member of society in a high class, so like making a decent amount of living to be comfortable enough that you can go do whatever you want while also maintaining relationships is pretty important. I know that sounds probably hypocritical coming from me, but you should maintain relationships. It's a very good thing. Actually, human interaction, we crave it. For me personally, I crave it even extra because of, biological things. You are engraved for human interaction, so you should go for your biological standpoint while also trying to make it in society, and then learning to also take a step back and distance yourself from political views, because once you don't distance yourself from political views, you end up just going the opposite down the road. So I think success is having successful relationships, having a successful amount of money, and not dealing with politics.
How do you handle situations where you don't get what you want?
Ooh, I get really angry very quickly. Actually, like, my angry meter is set off like from 0 to 100, no in between. The difference is I'm holding it back. Like, I am refraining from going out of my way to yell or get violent with you because you have angered me for no reason at all. Like, it could literally be something as simple as, hey, I want that last ice cream. Even though I didn't buy it, I have no claim to it, and it is yours. I want it. I'll still get angry, but I won't show it because I also understand that it's A, not worth the effort because it's ice cream, and B, I like, it is not my place to ask for something that I did not purchase or I do not have a claim to. That's just, I get it. It's how it makes sense. So it really depends. If it's something I want, have claim to, and very, 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 very much should have because of prior situations, I will lose it. I mean, AWOL, angry, screaming, arguments, whatever it takes. I'm getting what I want in that aspect. So it just depends.
Do you think it's important to care about others' feelings? Why or why not?
I don't. I don't think it's important to care. I do think it's important to pay attention, because if you care about something like someone else's feelings, you're going to negate your own, or you're going to negate potential progress, which only inhibits your growth. So you should ignore others' emotions and how they feel, like when it comes to you treading cautiously. You should pay attention to them, see what upsets them, and get them in your curry favor, I guess is the way to put it, and then use that to cross whatever bridge you need to cross. And then after you've crossed it, decide again from there, is it worth keeping that around, or is it worth, ignoring their feelings, telling them off, and leaving it at that?
What are your thoughts on taking risks?
Calculated risks, yes. Just random risks like impulses. A big thing for sociopaths is impulse. Like, they'll tell you it's like impulse control, impulse control, impulse control. No, actually, not all of us have that. So, personally, I got my impulses down pretty well. I have a very good control. Like, I won't go out of my way to do something random or not have a context for, and I tend to think before I act, which you should. You should always take calculated risks. For instance, like, if the stock market is about to go up 80%, it's still a calculated risk to put money in that 80%, but you calculated a risk and there's more chance of success. If it fails, it fails. Okay, happens. Learn, reset. But if you're taking a risk like, oh, hey, the stock market's supposed to go 12%, but there's like a 98% chance that it's going to fail, don't do it. That calculation is way off, horrible, very, very, very bad thing, and only harms you. If I would argue, if it's less of a 70% chance of success, don't take the risk. If it's more than a 70% chance of success, take the risk. If you don't know how to calculate that on your own, that comes from experience. I mean, talking to people, listening to podcasts, listening to different successful people, I recommend doing that before you take any kind of risk.
Have you ever done something that most people would consider morally wrong, but you didn't feel at but you didn't feel it was a big deal? Can you describe it?
Every time I'm with a partner, it's you just know that they care for you, so you automatically have curried favor. After you've curried favor, you can manipulate their emotions and get what you want. Like, you can purposely take an argument, right? Like, if you know that they're gonna say something and they're trying to hold themselves back, but if you irk it just the tiniest bit without seeming like you're gonna irk it, and you get into that argument, and it's something they know bothers you, then they instantly feel bad. They're like, wow, I really did that. And then you can take we're going to call them pity points, even though they're not pity points. You can take that and then get a little bit of alone time. Things like that, which is technically morally wrong and socially unacceptable because you're not being open and honest. But actually, if I want alone time, I'm going to do what I want. I'm going to do what I can to get it. Most people would just look at me like I'm an absolute AWOL asshole. But that's okay.
What do you think makes a person weak or strong?
Determination. I would say determination. I mean, other than just physically, like working out, physically strong, that's cool. But determination. So, like, because some people have it, some people don't. Whether you have a condition or not, you can still have determination. Like, there's Down syndrome people who have worked very hard to become very successful business people, but there's also like IQ geniuses who work at McDonald's. So if you don't have the determination, I consider yourself to be pretty weak. If you're not willing to put in the hours, put in the study, and look for results through we'll touch back on a calculated risk, you're weak. And if you're not willing to own up, right? Like, so let's say you have the determination to do something, but you made a mistake and you learn from it, that's good. But if you made that mistake and you want to blame something else and not learn from it, assuming it is your fault, but you don't want to be at fault, that's weak as well. Because then you're not learning and you're just going in this constant loop of, well, I didn't do it, so I'm going to do it again because it wasn't my fault. And you're going to be stuck in an endless loop. And an endless loop where you do the exact same thing is the definition of insanity.
Last question.
Oh boy.
How would you describe yourself if you were someone else observing you?
I would. That's a toughie. Because, I mean, I want to say charismatic, but I don't think that's correct. I think we're going to call it a ditto here, which is where you fulfill your role. So I think other people look at me as a safety net in the sense of, when you meet someone, everyone has a problem, or everyone has baggage, or everyone needs something, support for some way. You can figure it out pretty quickly through a little bit of basic conversation. And through that basic conversation that you establish, and you become their safety net, the thing that they rely on for that problem or for Zed. Uh, what would you call it? Healing, their own healing. Once you become that, then you have your way in. So that's the goal out of everything. So anytime I talk to someone, or anytime that I establish a connection with someone, or I become friends with someone, the first thing I establish is that I am a safety net for them to come and talk to, even if it's not enjoyable. That's the first thing out there. So I would say they look at me as a safety net. And then after you get to know me, you kind of look at me as like a dead. Like nothing bothers me, to the point, like in the sense of their problems don't bother me. It's just basic words of affirmation. It's not anything special, unless I kind of got to know their personality, in which case I can kind of fake that empathy and make them feel happy, but I can't really go out of my way to make them feel better of my own volition. It has to be, I have to copy, or I have to copy and paste pretty much. So I would say it starts off as safety net, and then ends up me being dead, or emotions isn't the word for it, because I'm always faking one when I'm talking to someone. So we won't go with emotions, but we'll go with dead. Just end off with dead. I'd say that's about it.